Hey, good evening. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. I'm Dave Valente. Tonight, it's kind of a free for all. We're going to focus a little bit on the student loan forgiveness issue, and then stuff about the Libertarian Party. But before we get started, I want to ask for your help. We're trying to expand the reach of the Political Deep Dive, trying to get it in front of as many people as possible. So if you're watching on YouTube, give us a like, hit that little like button, the thumbs up. Uh, Share the video if you can. Share it to your social media platforms, and at the bottom of the screen there should be a little subscribe button. Click on that. It lets you know when we're actually going live, so it helps give you reminders of when we go live. But it also helps us with our reach. If you're on Facebook, give us a like, love, whatever you want to do. Um, eh, we really appreciate it. It helps expand our reach again. So, I mean, these are just little things you can help us do if you really like what we're doing and want to see us get in front of more people. We'd greatly appreciate it, especially since I did something this week with my age on TikTok and have made myself under 18, so I can't go live. So, oops, I'll have to fix that sometime this week, hopefully. But let's get started. Let's bring in our co-host this week, AJ. AJ, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing very well. How are you?
I am doing well. And joining
Other
us,
than suddenly being under 18?
I'm okay with being under 18. Um, it just I want to feel like I'm under 18. I still got all the aches and pains of being an old ass. So and joining us from Maryland, the People's Democratic Republic of Maryland, Dan the Man Fishman.
I prefer to say parts unknown.
Parts unknown.
Yes.
Parts unknown.
Parts unknown. I say that because I was earlier today, as I mentioned, using BitTorrent, and then my location was Switzerland. So I would not like to confirm or deny that I was inside the United States borders within the last 24 hours.
The international man of mystery, Dan Fishman.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Let me show you my little male symbol that no, I'm just kidding.
What?
Oh, I was like,
we're getting this kind of show, huh?
You know, Austin Powers wears that little, he is the international man of mystery. And anyway.
Hey, James. Yeah, good. So finally getting my accounts back together after the whole switch over from my old account to the new account. I was able to bring my Political Deep Dive page with me to the new account, which is great. So I'm glad people are able to find it that way. Hey, Craig, how you doing? And Mr. Morrison, how are you doing? Thank you watching on LinkedIn. So this is awesome. It started over 4 times now.
4 times.
I don't know what goes on with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is kind of a weird place.
I didn't realize we were on LinkedIn. So there you go.
We are on LinkedIn.
Michael, you might want to try one of the links on YouTube. That one works great. Just search for Political Deep Dive on YouTube. And
actually, I'll display my.
Yeah, put it in there, and then when you get to YouTube, click that subscribe button, because that's a big deal. We would like to see, the way things work. If Dave can get over 10,000 subscribers, and
I won't have to go to work ever again.
Well, that's actually not quite where you are, but then you get monetized at $5 for every 1,000 views of your video. So that's not a bad place to be.
No, it's not a bad place to be. Although I have always said that this is, it's not my whole.
Tom Mann's here. I got to leave.
Oh, damn it. Go back to jail. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. I've gone like a month now without going to Facebook jail. So it's the brand new account. So awesome. So let's talk. The big news this week was the president announcing that he was, in a way, it's not really big news because he could have done so much more. But he announced that they're going to forgive $10,000 for student loans for people making under $125,000 or couples making under $250,000. So this was kind of one of his campaign promises. He didn't quite go as far as he said. He said it said during the campaign, but it was one of the things that he staked out. He's been playing footsie with the idea of student loan forgiveness for the longest time, especially through the pandemic. Oh, no, Dan, you never give away the feet pics for free, man. You got to charge for those.
That's the Patreon account. Aren't you linking the Patreon account? It's all feet all the time.
Yeah, this is the political feet dive.
Nice.
But yeah, so I mean, I've got mixed feelings about it. Yeah, go for it.
I object to every word in the sentence student loan forgiveness.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. First of all, the definition of student is wrong, right? Because their definition of student is only somebody who goes to college, right? It's not somebody who goes to trade school. It's not somebody who goes to culinary school. It's not somebody who, borrows money to start a business. None of those qualify. Okay, then student loan, right? It's not really a loan if it gets forgiven, right? And then forgiveness, that's the worst, because forgiveness implies that you have done something wrong. So the idea that there's somebody has to be forgiven means that we already know that it's wrong. This looks like a great video.
Yeah, well, it's like that scene in Schindler's List where the Nazi camp guard, the woman, just kind of convinced to try and do forgiveness at one point, and he's like, "I forgive you," and still shoots the person later, a few minutes later. But it's
exactly.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything he said.
The audio on this video is a little quiet, so you might have to turn your audio up for the video and then down again.
All right, let me pop my audio up here, and we shall do this. I apologize in advance for the scary person on the screen, though.
My name is Dan Fishman. I'm executive director for the People for Liberty. See, it's super quiet. I'm sorry. There's a lot of talk going on right now about student loan forgiveness, but even religions that practice it's unwatchable. Just say,
okay,
sorry.
I will pop the link into the chat. So that everybody, stop it! I did not authorize you to do that. So there we go. All right, so here is the link. It's going into the chat, so you can watch this at your leisure. But you want to summarize your key points? I mean, you did pretty much a lot of that, but
yeah, I mean, so there's two things about it. First of all, forgiveness. Forgiveness is almost a religious concept, right? But in the religions that talk about forgiveness, none of them says, "Okay, you're forgiven." What they say is, "Go forth and sin no more." So we didn't fix this, right? Biden's plan isn't fixing the original sin of student loans, which is that the government's giving money to people. So we can fix that really easily. Instead of the government giving money for student loans, and let's just briefly talk about how we got here. So back in the 70s, the government said, everybody who goes to college makes more money. So we want everybody to go to college. And they looked around, they found out there were a lot of people who weren't going to college because they couldn't afford to go to college. And they went to banks and said, "Hey, banks, why don't you lend these people some money? Then they can go to college." The bank said, "Well, guess what? We're actually in the money lending business. We want to lend out every single penny that we can to get back, but there's risks involved because people can declare bankruptcy and not pay us back. So we don't lend out money to loans that we think are high risk." And the government said, "What if we guaranteed the loans?" The bank said, "So if I gave out $1 million, I'd get back $1.1 million?" The bank said, "Yes." If I give out $1 billion, I get back 1.1. Yes. If I give out $1 trillion, yes. What don't you get? And the banks are like, "Okay." So they start lending out money as much as they can. And then about 1979, the banks are like, "You know what? We are getting slowed down here because the colleges aren't admitting enough people into college and there's not enough bad classes out there." So they went to the colleges and said, "Hey, we would like you to start admitting people who, might not be able to graduate your college, but maybe they can take a class or two. Who knows what's going to happen? And, some of the other people, you could go start other schools, stuff like that, because there's all this money out there." So the colleges fell in line. They created all these things. Some colleges actually stuck with their academic standards and didn't lower admissions, but most colleges are like, "Yeah, heck yeah, we can totally expand. We can increase costs, all these things." Banks make more money, colleges make more money, and there's a lot of students who are grateful because they're able to get into college. It's only as time goes on and the debt kept piling up that students started to realize, hey, a lot of us are being taken for a ride here. We're being sold this bill of goods. If you buy this thing, you're going to be able to make $1 million more than if you didn't go here. I would argue that there might be some fraud there. Okay, we're getting to the point where we can say that because you are selling something and it doesn't deliver what you offer, then you're engaged in a fraudulent thing. Now, normally, right, if you see an ad on television for financial services, it says, financial services are not secure. Your results may vary. You might lose all your money on the stock market. At no point in time does a college in its advertisement say, college degree is not a guarantee of satisfaction. You might not pass any classes. You might get a college degree that's worthless. You might end up in debt and owe us $1 million. So maybe if the colleges had some sort of warning like that, people would have been a little bit better. But here's the fundamental problem, is that the government giving the money is what breaks everything. So I got the easiest solution in the world. People say, okay, you got to allow students to declare bankruptcy. That alone doesn't fix it. Because if the government's giving the loans and students declare bankruptcy, who cares? That's just loan forgiveness. Instead, what needs to happen is that all loans need to come from the colleges and from banks, but specifically from the colleges. Because now, if a college gives out a loan to a student, the student becomes an investment for them, right? If I'm a college and I know that I can train people so they get $1 million a year jobs, I'm happy to float them the $100,000 a year it'll cost them for tuition, because I know that they'll be able to go out there and make money and pay me back. Now, the way I actually make money as a college is to get more students in, students who can pay, but also students that I'll pay for because I know that they'll be able to pay me back with interest. That makes it work. And then the students have the power, because if my degree isn't worth it, if I'm a college, what I teach them doesn't get them a job, then they say, yeah, you know what? It wasn't worth it. I can't pay you back on my loan. I have to declare bankruptcy. So then, as a college, what's my choice? I don't agree with anybody that they've graduated. And for people who don't know, nowadays, if you say that you graduated from a college, every person checks it. It's so easy to check online. So if you don't pay off your student loans, it's like you didn't go to college. Okay, you don't get credit for that or anything else. So it's not like in the old days they made an argument that people could declare bankruptcy. If people were allowed to declare bankruptcy, they would still have a paper diploma. Now, nobody believes that any piece of paper is real anymore. So it has to be confirmed online, etc. So if you default on your student loans, you don't have credit for that education anymore. Nobody's going to believe that you actually went to school at Harvard or wherever. So this works out really well, and it puts risks back in with money lending. Money lending should be like any other business. Okay, we know that the interest rate that's charged on a loan, that actually is the price that you pay to borrow that money. People raise the price of money when there's a higher level of risk. They lower it when there's a lower level of risk. So we fix everything by getting government out of the lending business and telling colleges that if they want to invest in students, they're welcome to do that. But the students have the right to declare bankruptcy and potentially not pay back the loans.
Yeah, I mean, this is a classic example of, really just a, moral failing of the education institutions, that we've given so much money. We have this perverse incentive now to get so many kids in the door, to get as much federal money into the schools through these loan programs, that it's just it's allowed the schools to grow beyond their, and school growth isn't a bad thing. It's the idea that it's growing just to get more of this money back into the doors, and putting in things like, I mean, I love college football. I absolutely love college football. But the sports programs that schools have now, there's only a few schools that really make money on their programs, and it's the top flight schools like your Nebraskas, Alabamas, Georgias, those type of programs, Texas. They make money, but for the most part, they either break even, or they are just, they're kind of a drag on their school, but it's sold as this student experience and alumni connectivity experience and that type of stuff. So,
in Boston, while I was there, Boston University ended their football program. They're like, you know what? We just can't justify it anymore. It costs too much money. And there's also the whole Title IX thing about it, that they were spending way more money on men's sports than they were on women's sports, and that's unfair. But the other thing about it is that, if you think of the great schools, right, the truly great schools in the country, they don't charge tuition anymore, or at least they're generally free depending on your income level. All right. Harvard is free now for anybody whose parents make under, I think, $400,000 a year. Same thing for Stanford. MIT is free if your parents make under $250,000 a year. The reason why is because they know that you are going to give them back more than that over your lifetime, because they know that's the value of their degree. And so, and you know what? They don't even know that every student is going to do that, but they know that one student is going to be, a Bill Gates or a Mark Zuckerberg or
James. You can convert 5% of your graduating class into big time donors. Even 20 years down the road, and they start becoming big time donors. You're making that cost of the education, especially today's dollars versus yesterday's dollars. And free education is not, college education is not a new idea. I mean, I was reading yesterday about how California, like Berkeley, used to be a free institution until the early 70s, and that they started charging because they thought that it was a hotbed of socialism. They wanted people to have money in the game to be able to attend school. And Ronald Reagan does all that. What, do you get a funny comment out there?
Well, I was just thinking that they thought it was a hotbed of socialism then. They had no idea they were coming down the road for Berkeley.
Yeah, exactly.
I say that as somebody who was born in Berkeley, California. The other thing about it too is that when you look at what colleges are offering right now compared to what trade schools are offering, a trade school really makes it really makes a lot more sense, because I think of some of the stupid classes that I take. So I did my second degree at the University of Massachusetts at Boston. And because it was a second bachelor's, I didn't have to take as many of stupid classes as normally you would, but they still made me take some electives and stuff like that. And so I took an anthropology class. My professor was just a flat out Marxist. Okay. And I used to talk all the time about corporate welfare. And even though I am opposed to the idea of corporate welfare, the way that he was pitching it was terrible. I mean, he was really pitching it from government should be controlling the means of production, but not through corporate welfare. It should be controlling it by telling the companies what they're supposed to do. I'm just like, and so we started arguing in class. Of course, I crushed him, right? And after like the third time that happened, he's like, you know what, Dan, you don't have to come to class anymore, and I will give you an A in the class. I'm like, deal. I felt sorry. I mean, because I was older at the time. I was like 28, and all the rest of the kids were 18 years old. So I'm like, yeah, I feel bad abandoning these 18-year-old kids. But honestly, it's the University of Massachusetts in Boston. Most of them are socialists already.
True. I don't know. A lot of states are moving to this tuition-free model. I know New Mexico's moved to a tuition-free model. I know that some other states, I think New York has moved in that direction as well, at least on the community college level.
Tennessee does the first 2 years.
Yeah, so
I've gotten to learn that through Charlie. So.
Yeah.
I went to trade school, so I don't really have a whole lot of. I have not had student loans. That doesn't mean that people that have did anything wrong. Or I had a different opportunity, and mine actually was, like, we can say this might be the one time the government interfered and it turned out okay. There was a stimulus package passed. George W. Obama, like right around in there. And I went to school through that, and it was required your grade point average this, your attendance had to be this. There was accountability, or you had to pay for it, or you were out of the program. That was it. So you had to do what you were there to do. I had to learn to be a nurse, and I had to be good at it. that there was an incentive there. So I think if the pointless classes, because Charlie had to take geology and it was the biggest waste of a semester. Classes that have absolutely nothing to do with your degree, they're like the fine print in a bill. How much crap that is, because that's where that's where you're wasting your time. That's all that any of us have anyway. As far as student forgiveness, the government got involved and it got messed up. Weird, right?
I do find it funny that the over the last week, the number of people who have had forgiven PPP loans railing against y'all just shut the fuck up for now. Okay?
Seriously, let's talk about those sons of bitches. And I don't use that word lightly, but it is disgusting. It is disgusting for Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lorena Boebert, all these Republicans who got their PPP loans forgiven, okay, to complain about this. Because first of all, the PPP loans were really meant to be for the people who were struggling to keep their businesses open. You can't tell me that these millionaires in Congress were struggling to make payroll. Instead, they said, oh, you know what? It's free money coming out from the government. Now, I will tell you that when I was executive director of the Libertarian Party, there was a point in time at which I looked at PPP and I said, you know what? 100%, we will qualify for this. We will get those loans. I don't think it's a good idea, but it's 2020. It's COVID. We know that fundraising is going to be down. We know that we don't even know what our path is to 50 state ballot access, how much we're going to have to spend. We don't know what we're going to have to do for a convention because it's COVID. So we've got all these unclear expenses. So my job as executive director is to present all the options. And so I called Nick Sarwark, who was the chair at the time. I'm like, I just want to make you aware of the fact we can qualify for this. I don't think it's in line with our principles. He's like, 100% it's not in line with our principles. I appreciate you calling me, but in the future, you know what my feelings on this are. I'm like, I kind of knew then too, but it was principle, right?
Yeah.
Principle kept us away from that. We shouldn't be shocked that all these Republicans out there have no measure of principles or no measurable principles. And so, of course, they took the money and then quite literally ran, if you'll forgive the terrible pun. But it's atrocious.
Yeah, it's been frustrating to watch that. I mean, and it's the worst people carrying that banner. Like, I can see if you are Joe Sixpack who never took out a student loan, who never benefited from college, and I don't even agree with the fact that they're going to be on the hook for this. You're not really going to be on the hook for this. This is just written off stuff. And yeah, there's no such thing as a free lunch, but Joe Sixpack is not going to see his taxes raised just because of $10,000 student loan forgiveness.
No, but he won't see his taxes raised. However, in this case, right? So I actually wasn't aware of this, but I guess since the mid 90s, all student loans actually come from the government. You don't really get, you can get private loans, but most guaranteed federal loans come from the government. So in this case, the government is just printing the money. So when they forgive it, they actually are increasing the money supply. They are inflating the money supply. They are causing inflation by canceling these loans, which is, it's something that we've been talking about, but nope, here we are. We're just going to keep going.
Inflation Recovery Act or
Exactly.
Inflation Reduction Act. No.
Right. Exactly. When they say Inflation Reduction Act, what they mean is they are reducing the impediments to them causing inflation.
Well, it's kind of like when they talk about debt reduction, they're reducing the deficit. That whole concept. Yes. Okay. So if you're not spending as much as you did last year, and that is technically deficit reduction because we've been running deficits for a long time, but you're still adding on to the debt.
Right.
Yeah. It's not as fast.
And that debt has interest on it.
Yes.
Now, the reason, of course, that they don't really care is because they just print money.
Yep.
So, the argument, we're going to get into it. This is MMT, right? Modern monetary theory. Deficits don't matter because what really matters is consumer confidence. I don't agree with this, but to give the other side of the view, people believe, because what is your money anyway, right? if it's not the confidence that people have in it, right? We don't have a gold standard, anything like that. But so long as people,
always a fiat.
yeah, exactly, right. And so that's their argument. But we're seeing right now, we're seeing significant inflation, and we're seeing people question the value of American currency, and we're seeing a lot of people shifting to alternate currencies. And when that happens, that's going to be a really big issue. The question is it going to be an issue for our generation? It's going to be an issue for AJ's kids' generation.
Bless them. They've already got so much.
I think it's going to be a question for everyone's generation here pretty soon. But I don't know. I mean, I don't have a problem with the idea. I don't have a problem with people getting this benefit, $10,000. It's not great. I mean, when you think about most people's student loan benefits, or student loan debt, they're still like $10,000 doesn't mean much for me. I'm $70,000 in student loan debt. It's a help, but it still means I'm going to have, a massive payment once it starts, when they start retaking out the money.
Yeah. Is your loan debt down now? I mean, so tell us a little bit about this, Dave, because I don't know anything. So what is your degree in?
I got an international affairs bachelor's and a diplomacy master's.
You deserve all the debt. I'm sorry. Sorry.
You deserve it
long way to set that up. But so it's interesting because, the total amount, right? They say it's going to be a $350 billion bill to do all this forgiveness. You know what? I would just say, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, we want you guys to pick this up. They got it. They have the cash on hand right now.
They got the cash from PPP alone.
Exactly. And say, you know what? Here, this is it. You guys want to be American companies? We will give you a tax credit of saying that you don't have to pay any corporate income tax for the next 5 years, in return for which you guys pay off all these American student loans. Right? How amazing would that be? Right? I would feel a lot happier about. I give Apple a lot of money anyway, and Amazon, and maybe not Microsoft, but Google certainly. Those guys could do all that stuff, and getting rid of corporate income tax is actually better for all of us anyway, because what happens if a company doesn't pay income tax? They might pay their employees more. Well, that would be good because personal income tax is higher than corporate income tax. They might hire more people. Well, that would be good. Or they might invest in the company in research and development. That would be good too. All economists worth their salt from any side of the political spectrum, Marxist to conservative, agree that corporate income tax is a terrible idea. It's just that politically nobody has the will to do it because we're going to increase corporate taxes so your personal taxes will go down, because people don't understand taxes paid by corporations are actually paid by people.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing that we can that I think this debate should bring out is the idea of, let's look at college and why it's become so expensive. Why are students having to do a general education requirement for their degree? Like, if you don't know English, if you don't know science, if you don't know math going into college, why are you in college? Your college experience should be learning about the trade or the part of the whatever you're learning. It should be that. It should be completely focused on that. You can have electives as part of it, but I think for the most part, it should be that. And college should not be 4 years. It should be probably closer to 2 or 3 years rather than that. And then you can go on to master's or doctorate from there. I still think that even master's and doctorate work should be streamlined as well. Because if you're really focusing on one area of concentration, it shouldn't take 8 years to get your degree. But I think that there are so many perverse incentives based off of this the student loan program right now that the universities don't want the change, the government doesn't want the change. University professors don't want the change because if you start talking about getting rid of general education classes, then professors may be on the chopping block. I don't know.
Although if you look at what colleges are spending money on, it's generally not faculty salaries, right?
No.
In fact,
Absolutely not.
most colleges have moved away from the idea of full-time faculty members to just have paid instructors. In fact, our good friend Joe Jorgensen teaches at Clemson, and she's a doctor, Dr. Joe, but she is not actually an instructor because they don't want to pay her to be a full-time instructor. They don't want to pay her to be a professor. They just want to pay her to teach classes, and so that is a problem for a lot of people, because it means that the quality of the faculty is based on sort of a mercenary thing. You don't grow faculty, you don't grow many faculty members anymore. You hire people who can teach the spots that allow you to make money. And now it's just a simple calculus. If I can pay, let's not use Joe as an example. Let's use somebody else. Dave's teaching a class at Georgetown now in international relations. Okay, if I can pay Dave, if I can pay Dave $20,000 a semester, but I can put 100 kids in his seat, and each one of them is paying $3,000. Well, then it's easy cheesy, right? I made a huge profit. And if I want to increase my profit margin, I say, you know what? Dave's getting a little too big for his britches, asking for that $20,000. I get somebody else who could do it for $18,000. And it's just a run-of-the-mill class. Why would I have a great professor to do it? It's just business. And when it's just business, acknowledge that it's just business, but don't act like there's some holier than thou purpose behind this education. It's just about a business of making money off of selling knowledge. Yeah. It's nothing else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Charlie has come to realize that college is not quite what high school is training you for. That's what they say the whole time, is we're doing it just like this because we're training you for college. College is absolutely nothing like high school. And he's had to learn this. Like, everything that you get in college is because you've reached out and you've gotten it. They don't teach you that in high school. They teach you to obey. So he has become very proactive. And I mean, this is just community college. He hasn't even started into like the big meat of it yet. So we will see what happens.
Yeah. I mean,
this is very interesting to watch.
Yeah. The education, where they tell you that high school is prep for college, it is not. And it hasn't been for a long time. There's no, lots of schools have remedial education because the high schools are just not preparing their students to be able to compete in a college arena, to be able to just write a paper. A 3-point essay is a lost art for high school students, and we can have a long conversation about how do we reform high school education and lower education. We've had discussions on here about how do we reform our education system. I think from a top-down perspective, we could have a long conversation about how do we build an education system that serves our purposes now and in the future, rather than serving what we've been doing for the last 2 centuries.
That hasn't worked.
Well, it's no longer working, definitely.
It's I don't know. It's really irritating. There's this idea that what's the Basquiat quote? When people find a way to live at the expense of others, they will invent a moral code that justifies it. And so here we are. We have this moral code that says, "Oh, education is better." You know what? Education is great. Education, as Mark Twain said, is not your schooling. Okay, you can get an education in a million different things. I think probably the most important things that I learned in college, right, in my first undergraduate degree, was if you're really, really drunk and you're worried about alcohol poisoning, go to Taco Bell. That will cause you to purge, potentially save your life later on.
From both ends.
Exactly.
Actually, if you're out west, though, you go to Allsup's. Allsup's has what we call gut grenades. They're deep fried burritos. Delicious. They're amazing. I still get them even though I'm not drinking. Throw them down. They're good.
Well, and I'll add in another thing. If you are, for those of us who were in New Orleans for the convention in 2018, if you walk around on Bourbon Street and other places in New Orleans, you'll see these little hot dog vendors. And people who have read Confederacy of Dunces will be familiar with the concept because Ignatius sold them. Those things are also instant nausea. And if you need to purge, you can eat those hot dogs and that will work. But you know what? I didn't have to go to college to learn that. I could have learned that information somewhere else.
It's not a purge.
Apparently on this podcast.
Yeah. It's not a purge. It's giving back to the community. That's how I couch it.
Exactly. It's very frustrating because there are so many other things that people could be doing at this point in time. But let's talk about a little conspiracy theory stuff. 60% of the people who voted for Joe Biden had a college degree. Okay. Is there, if you go to college and you get a degree from a 4-year school, is there a better chance that you're going to come out and vote Democrat than any other party? And the numbers say yes. It's completely true. And in fact, I don't want to break it down, but there's a great article about this in the New York Times where they said that white males with without a college degree, only 18% of Biden voters, even though they're a much larger percentage of the demographic. And so there is this idea that the government is buying votes by paying off loans. And that's probably the worst thing of all, that we are looking at this, just sort of blatant payout for the people who voted and worked for the presidential campaign. And that's what's wrong, is that, I go back and John McCain was in the news recently because of some really—
We'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah, terrible things that happened. But I can tell you one of the moments in which I was proudest of what I thought was the last gasp of the honorable side of American politics was I was watching a town hall that John McCain did on CNN. And, in the town hall format, they give the microphone to people. And a woman got up, and you guys can find this on Google. It's easy to find.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this.
And she says, I'm worried about Barack Obama. All these things. And said, you know what? And he's a Muslim, and and he's like, no, stop. It's like, stop. Barack Obama and I have differences, but I know him to be a good Christian man. I mean, it's bullshit that they say it's Christian, and that's a relevant part of it. But the fact that he intervened and he said things that probably could have hurt him politically, right? Would Donald Trump have ever stopped that? Of course.
Oh, God. No, he would have doubled down on that.
But the idea that, we do things because they are morally and politically right, that is gone from a large part of this population. And we talk about what's happening with these student loans right now. Okay, it actually started with the idea that people thought, you know what, there's a moral justification behind it, right? Somebody somewhere said, you know what, if we could just make it so more people could go to school, more people go to college, we get better outcomes. That's better for everybody. We are helping them. The problem is that, I mentioned it before. The Libertarian book that everybody should read is Hayek's last book. And I'm not going to remember now. The great, oh my God, how can I not remember the name of it now? Senility Sucks. Somebody else can look it up, or somebody can mention it in the comments. But the idea is, The Fatal Conceit. Okay. And in The Fatal Conceit, Hayek says, he's like, look at this amazing world in front of us. Okay. Right. The sum of human knowledge on a cell phone. Okay. Here, you and I are broadcasting to the world. I'm in Maryland. You're in West Virginia. AJ's in Tennessee. And yet we're all connected and people are watching it in, China, all these things. China. All these things couldn't happen with a government planned economy. The only way it happened, it was with all these people trying to figure out a way to get paid for for providing a service to humanity. And you think about it, right? The noblest occupation that we can, noblest occupation that we can have is that of serving humanity. Capitalism is about the idea that you get paid for your service to humanity. So all these people are trying to serve humanity and get paid for doing it, and 99 out of 100 of them fail. But that's good, because it's that failure that causes that one person to succeed to provide a great service to humanity. And that's where our system is. That's what the noble part about it is that we're all actually trying to provide a service for humanity. Instead, what we have now is a system where a lot of people think, well, you know what, instead of providing a service, I just want to live off of the other people who are providing services to everybody else. I want to find a way to get a piece of what they're creating and then help redistribute it to other people. And that's where we've broken. We've broken the basic moral idea.
And I think I would be remiss. We didn't mention, I mean, the thing about this whole student loan forgiveness thing that really, you know, is kind of a punch in the gut, is that it does nothing to actually address the issues that are behind the student loan debt crisis. And it won't fix any of that stuff. In fact, I will tell you, I will say 3 years, 3 to 5 years, we're going to be back in the same position where people are going to be like, we need more student loan debt forgiveness. And again, we're not going to address the issue that the loans are bad, the system is bad. It's just that we are, you know, we're doing this. PJ O'Rourke called it hay in the barn for human cattle. Like that's the way to look at it. We're just throwing a little hay to make things a little bit more comfortable, but not addressing the actual issue and not fixing it. So again, we're going to be here 3-5 years from now with this same debate because we have not addressed the systemic issues that have broken this system. All right. So also in the news this week, you alluded to it a moment ago. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire sent out 2 tweets on what was it, Thursday, where the first tweet was $6 million minimum wage or you're anti-Semitic, and then the second one was a picture of Meghan McCain weeping over her father's casket on the 4th anniversary of John McCain's death, with the tagline "Happy Holidays." The anti-Semitic tweet didn't get as much play as the McCain tweet, but both were disgusting. And this is all part of the Libertarian Party, the greater Libertarian Party, kind of circling the drain right now. I think we'll look back in a year or so and say that was really the final nail for the Libertarian Party, was them, you know, doing this, no interference from the National Party, nothing.
Doubling down. The National Party defended it.
Yeah, National Party defended it. In the same breath, same meeting, same all this stuff going down. Libertarian Party, National Party, is trying to interfere with the state of New Mexico's choice to disaffiliate from the National Party, which looks wiser and wiser by the moment that the LPNM decided to disaffiliate from National. National has been trying to interfere with the state party for some time now, since they took power at the Memorial Day convention. They've already interfered in 2 other state affiliates, trying to interfere with the 4th state affiliate up in Idaho.
Right,
it's a mess.
There's another funny thing in there that you know, I think. Oh, sorry, I was going to show the same one. You do it.
I'll do it.
You know, there's another outcome that happened actually as part of this in Massachusetts. So in Massachusetts, libertarians ran a full slate. And when I say libertarians, I mean LAMA, the group that is no longer affiliated with the LNC, but had been affiliated for, you know, the past 48 years.
Yeah.
So, and I will tell you too, I tried desperately to get the other LAMA group to run a candidate for statewide office because they wanted to get ballot access. Nobody wanted to do the work. But Llama, right, the old guys, they're all about that ballot access and getting people in there. So they ran a full slate. Kevin Reed is running for governor. Peter Everett, lieutenant governor. I'm going to skip down to the important one. Chris Crawford is running for treasurer. The Republican candidate did not get on the ballot. So Chris Crawford is running against the Democrat unopposed. Just the two of them. And the treasurer oversees the Cannabis Commission in Massachusetts. So it is a place where there is a real opportunity. But regardless, Llama is going to get over 3%. They will be officially recognized as the Libertarian Party of Massachusetts, which is going to create an interesting trademark battle because as executive director, I oversaw the completion of the trademark work where the LNC got the trademark for the phrase Libertarian Party in any political venue. And it's been used several times to shut down county parties that were doing things that were not.
Hampton Roads.
Yeah, exactly, stuff like that. However, there's an interesting question of, is it actually an appropriate trademark? Because the Libertarian Party of Massachusetts existed and was on the ballot long before the long before the trademark was established. The Libertarian Party of Massachusetts was on the ballot. Libertarian Party of New Mexico was on the ballot. And so those states, at least in New Mexico, the Secretary of State has said the Libertarian Party of New Mexico has the right to use that term because they're a recognized party in New Mexico, and we will actually defend them against any trademark lawsuit. So
that's
going to be.
I actually know the Secretary of State of New Mexico.
All right.
I went to high school with her.
I'm glad that you put that bug in her ear, Dave.
It was all you, right? That was what this is.
It was not.
But so, here we are in this scenario where, and for sure, Llama, Libertarian Association of Massachusetts, soon to be the official Libertarian Party of Massachusetts, is definitely not going to put on the ballot somebody who is, tolerant of racism.
Yeah.
And, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the guys who said it was important to remove from the Libertarian Party platform the statement, we find racism to be, or we find bigotry to be irrational and repugnant, right? So these are those guys, right? No candidate who's getting involved in that. And I want to say that everybody that's involved in that, they are complicit. Okay. Everybody who's involved in that statement is complicit in. And if you voted for it, you're complicit. Yep. If you helped to craft it, you're complicit.
Yep.
So people need to come out now. There may be people who want to come out and say, you know what? I didn't realize what was going on, stuff like that. You want to apologize? That's fine. I'm ready. I'm happy to accept apologies around things like that. Come back and say, we need to get that back in. But if you're somebody who said, you know what, I'm going to compromise on bigotry, I'm going to compromise on racism, that's not a party that I ever want to see anybody support.
Exactly. I will say, if you're attached to a state party right now and you're looking at what's going on in New Mexico, and let's say your party, the state party is not one of the Mises controlled state parties. And I'll call out a couple like Indiana or Texas. If you're watching what's going on with New Mexico and you're watching what's going on with Delaware and Massachusetts and Idaho and think that that's not going to happen to you eventually, we're only 3 months into this term. It's coming. It's coming. And they're going to get more savvy about it. They're going to start working to create groups behind your backs right now, and then go to the Secretary of State in your state and say, this is actually the recognized group, and take your ballot access, and you'll be left holding the bag. So my advice to any state right now who's looking at what's going on with the Libertarian National Committee with alarm, and you should be, is disaffiliate now. Disaffiliate now, become an independent state party, continue your libertarian ideals, because libertarian ideals are fundamentally good. It's the idea that
that small government is desirable because it allows you to be a small-minded bigot.
Yeah. And So get out now before they take your ballot access. And in 2 years, if I really don't think that the brand is salvageable at this point.
That's
2
what I
years
was
ago,
about to say.
I don't
Yep.
think it's salvageable at this point. But in 2 years, there's going to be something there. Either you can remain an independent state party. There are plenty of independent state parties around. And here they're affiliated with the Green Party, but the Mountain Party here in West Virginia. But you can affiliate with another national party. And I know we had Joe Slosky on last week talking about the Keystone Party. Again, a libertarian-based party that will be a home. They're going national after the election. You can look at the Pirate Party. We've had them on before. I don't know what the Forward Party is going to look like in 2 years, if it's going to be there. But there's going to be options. And I know that there are people who are pushing, like, we're going to get it back in 2 years. What? It's expensive to do ballot access in 50 states. I understand that. But much more expensive will it be to get back the ballot access that you've lost in the Libertarian Party in the next 2 years, plus power washing the stench of this administration of the Libertarian Party off of that party
Absolutely.
and recovering the reputation of this party, because it was on CNN today. And I get that, the people that did this are going to say, it's CNN. We don't care about CNN. Forget those guys.
People that we need in order to get the ballot access, they watch that too. Anytime that the Libertarian Party trends, it's never a good thing. Like that is a problem. That is an essential. And see, the state party here, I would love to be involved. I would love to, but I work for a company that cares what their employees are involved in. And the Libertarian Party right now, the National Party, that's what everybody hears about. No matter if you are working for Warren County, Tennessee, and you are just getting together, y'all are taking care of the homeless. One tweet will poison that word. I remember being at Reggae Fest and pulling people in and discussing politics with them and, hanging out, having a great time. And then they go away for a couple hours and they come back. And I can't remember which freaking northeastern state it was that put out a tweet that weekend that was comparable to the anti-Semitic.
It was New Hampshire.
The tweets this past week.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They were close, and they're like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Oh no, that's a different state party." It's like, it says Libertarian. How am I going to explain to people that? Oh no, not those Libertarians. We're these No, that's ridiculous.
I will say that if you put me in a trench and make me fight, I will say, well, I would say that those guys are libertarians in the same way that David Duke is a Democrat, right? David Duke ran as a Democrat. So did Lyndon LaRouche. So did Robert Byrd, former Klan member, right? He was elected as a Democrat. So there's a lot of people in parties who are, not represented. But fundamentally, yeah, it's embarrassing. It's especially embarrassing in places where, there's this great campaign going on right now in Maryland. David Lasher, I think, has got a great chance to be elected. And he has huge support in Baltimore, specifically in West Baltimore, which is an overwhelmingly African-American area. And the people really like him. They really like his message. And in fact, they want to run a slate of libertarians for Baltimore City Council next year, which is awesome. But they're starting to ask, well, can you explain this thing where the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire said that all black people should go back to Africa? Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah. Do worry about the candidates, the people that have already put so much of themselves into this and have been running this entire time. They have been fundraising. They have been out there shaking hands. They have done all of these things. And now they're having to start at the beginning. Several this past week have removed Libertarian from their web pages. They're severing ties.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's going to be anything left of the party that we loved.
Yeah.
So Kyle, I just wanted to say, my current party registration in West Virginia is non-politically or not. I can't remember. It's NPA. So no political affiliation. And right now, I'm focused on candidates. If there's a good libertarian candidate who represents my overall values, I don't mind voting for them. It's the party right now is not getting any of my support, any of my financial support, and to the extent that I can use this platform to speak against it, I will use it because they don't represent the ideals of liberty that really are at the heart of libertarianism.
Yeah. I mean, libertarianism is supposed to be the political expression of loving your neighbor. And I just wanted to comment, Kyle in the CV, if CV means that you're serving on a carrier somewhere, I thank you for watching, man. I hope you make it home safe. For what we're looking at in terms of ideology, our ideology is fundamentally, right? We want people who understand that they shouldn't try to be other people's bosses. That's it. Libertarianism is a simple idea. Shouldn't be authoritative. One of the funniest things about this is that, right, the LNC had been advocating for a while for a national divorce, right? They said, oh, the state should separate. But suddenly, when the state parties want to separate, oh, no, not that kind of divorce.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody hypocrite like a libertarian.
Yeah, I mean that's just. I mean the funny thing about watching this whole debacle with the states go down is at one point they're saying national divorce, and others the state parties are going, okay, sounds good to me.
I mean, let's talk about that too, because that's an important thing to say. And I just want to say this part of it, just because I got a friend who's going through this a little bit. There are some people who are not meant to be married to each other. Okay. And if a divorce is the right thing for you guys, do that. And it feels like right now, don't have any shame about it. It's not that things failed. People need to go their separate ways. This is where we are right now. And I had one more epiphany. So I was out splitting logs. You follow me on Facebook, I am in love with being a lumberjack. I'm not really a lumberjack, but I heat my house with wood. And so I was splitting these giant logs, and there's one where a branch was grown off of the main branch like this, and it had fallen off and it had rotted and gone into the thing. And I thought about that as a perfect analogy. Sometimes a branch will grow off of the tree, but it's not sustainable, and it will fall off and it will rot out. And that's like the tree of liberty too. We see these branches grow off every now and then, but they're not sustainable. And you got to expect the fact that when they're not sustainable, they're going to rot. The key is recognizing you can't let that destroy the entire tree.
Well, I mean, it's like our argument when we talk about police brutality, when the police unions and the bosses say, oh, it's just a few bad apples doing this. Well, complete the statement.
Exactly.
A few bad apples do what? And
spoil the bunch.
Exactly. And until they realize that and understand that just saying a few bad apples doesn't absolve them of all the responsibility without any action to remove those bad apples. It's the same parable here with the Libertarian Party.
And these are the same people who, when Jo Jorgensen ran for president, she said it is not enough to not be a racist. We have to be actively anti-racist. And they're like, oh, come on. I mean, what does it mean to be actively racist? That means when somebody says the N-word in front of you, you say, hey, that's not okay. It is not okay to use that language. And you speak up about that stuff. And here we are in the exact scenario of that sort of thing. And all these people are speaking up. It's not okay for you to do that, right? And that's why they didn't like that. They didn't like Joe saying you have to be anti-racist, because they want a tolerance system where people tolerate racism, where they tolerate bigotry, where they're willing to say, you know what? I might not be a racist, but I would work with racists. No, not me. That's not my idea of liberty. And I'm not going to work with anybody who will do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work with anybody who is complicit in removing the bigotry plank from the LNC.
Yeah, absolutely. So get out. That's the whole gist of this whole thing is get out.
Get out. And Tom Mann made a great point. People should look at the genius work that happened in New Mexico. Chris Lucchini was the chair. They've got a couple of couple of cantankerous bastards. They've also got some really smart people there, and they did it right. And they are willing to share that model with anybody who wants to get out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tom, for being on.
Mhm.
We applaud you for what you did and really taking it down this road, because that, I think it sets the model for other state parties. And again, if you're a state party and you don't think this is going to happen to you, think again, because I will guarantee you that especially the bigger states, the ones that have not bent their knee to Mises,
Yep.
need to really start putting setting the things in motion to get their party disaffiliated. So, all right. So, are you guys ready for the news quiz?
I am ready to win.
All right, let's do this. CNN News
Oh,
Quiz. Here.
earlier somebody asked me a question about Louis. He's part pit, part terrier.
Yes.
Nice.
Mostly just spoiled dog.
Spoiled dog
all Liberty
is a breed
dog.
on its own.
Yes,
is
he
awesome.
is.
Oh, we actually had another question. What does the Republican Party defend and defame any other party? I mean, it's politics. I mean, I get that. You know, when you're fighting in politics, it's one thing. You want to get more people to vote for you. I think people who are brighter than I when it comes to communications and marketing understand that the negative strategy, even though people say that they hate it, works.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that is that's what's gone on with politics. And people treat politics now, because there's so much money and so much power wrapped up into it, like it's a zero-sum game. And whenever you treat something as a zero-sum game, in the end, at some point, you're going to be treated with the sum of zero.
Yep. And here's the thing, is that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, okay, they really only care about one thing: winning elections. And they're actually corporations. If you look them up, the RNC and the DNC are both incorporated. Okay, they are corporations, and they sell elections, and they don't have any fixed position, right? Ronald Reagan was a Kennedy Democrat. Ronald Reagan would never be allowed in the Republican Party today, because Ronald Reagan represented an idea of fairness and decency. As much as people wanted to complain about Reagan and the stuff that he did, Reagan did what he did because he felt like there was an obligation to do the right thing. Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill could hang out together and have a beer. But if you think about what would happen now, right? Are Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump going to hang out and have a beer? Are Kevin McCarthy and Joe Biden going to hang out and have a beer? Of course not. Because there's a level of intolerance now that we have to fight so fiercely against the other side, because these other people who are Americans, they consider them the enemy. But I tell you what, if you think that the other people, that other Americans are your enemy, then you've forgotten what we're about. And this is the fundamental problem with democracy, right? Because we have a system that allows 51% of the people to take away rights from 49% of the people, all we're going to do is, that's pretty funny, Tom. All we're going to do is we're creating a system where people are going to fight to win elections, and they don't care about anything else. They just want to win the elections because of the power that's involved in them. And so as long as we have a system of government that has the power to take people's rights away, and we're probably going to talk about this later, the fact that it is now illegal for people under the age of 21 to buy whipped cream in New York City. As long as there's that kind of power in government, people are going to do crazy stuff with it. So the only way we can fix it, and listen, I wish that we could have a system where, wise, benevolent people would actually do what was best for everybody. But that system never happened. What happens is the small-minded, crafty people outmaneuver the wise, benevolent people, because those people are wise and they're nice and they play by the rules. So they get outmaneuvered. And then the small, shifty people figure out, how do I make government make me a millionaire? So the only way we can fix the system is to have a system where nobody has the power that the government can make them a millionaire.
Yeah.
150.
He's
sorry, that got me.
90s, but yeah, that's I respect Jimmy Carter far more as a person than as president. Although he did some decent things as a president that kind of fly under the radar. So let's hit the news quiz. Let's see. 5 Things Weekly News Quiz for August 25th, 2022. We are on the 28th now, so it's been a couple days. Due to the rising cost of living in the United States, a growing number of people are fleeing their expensive cities in search of cheaper rent and better quality of life abroad. Where are many Americans moving? Hong Kong, London, Mexico City, or Montreal?
I can tell you that Hong Kong and London are super expensive to live in.
Yeah.
I happen to know that it's Mexico City.
Yeah, it's got to be Mexico City because even Montreal is uber expensive. Yeah, Mexico City became the work from home haven for U.S. expats. It's not a bad deal. If you can find a place to do your job, if you're remote working and you can work it out with your boss to work from a cheaper country.
Our good friend of the show, Dan Berman, lives in just outside of Cancun, and has beautiful weather all the time. Works for I'm not going to say the name on the air, but a pretty famous American media company as a software engineer. Makes that good American software engineer salary, and his expenses are nothing.
Yeah,
he has a person who comes in every morning, stops by the market, and brings him whatever is the good fresh fruit at the market that day, cuts it up for him so there's fresh fruit all day. He goes out to the beach in the afternoon, and it's an amazing life. And all made possible by the miracle of modern technology.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mexico builds a wall at some point with the way that things are going in this country. And they'll make us pay for it because we pay for everything.
Yes.
All right, question number 2. What ancient find was uncovered in Texas riverbed this week? Rare pink diamonds, dinosaur tracks, a prehistoric village, or a Viking ship? I know this one.
I don't know, but if it's a riverbed, I mean, it could easily be dinosaur tracks. There are a lot of dinosaurs in Texas. Well, you're going to say that's it?
That is it.
All right.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, they found a bunch of dinosaur tracks from 113 million years ago. So you can see
I will tell people, if you have never been to Big Bend Park in Texas, it's unbelievable. So a long time ago, like 50,000 years ago or so, there was a giant volcano there, and it raised itself up out of the middle of the desert. And so the area inside a volcano is called a caldera. And as you might know, when clouds have to rise up, they drop rain. So in the middle of the desert, it's been raining inside this volcanic caldera for the last 50,000 years. And there's this land of the lost ecosystem going on there. That is the coolest thing ever. So it's really hard to get to. It's like an 8-hour drive, and there's no shortcuts unless you're going to fly in private. But put camping out in Big Bend as one of the things that's on your bucket list.
Yep. Big Bend is a beautiful area, and it is very, very hard to get to. But yeah. So question number 3, which country debuted the world's first hydrogen-powered passenger trains this week? It's Germany, France, US, or Sweden.
I don't know.
But I'm going to go with the color scheme on this one. There's blue and gold. Gold doors.
Ukraine.
No, Sweden.
That is a good guess as well.
That is a good guess.
If I had to guess, I would have guessed Germany, just because they're reeling from the loss of their nuclear power plants. Yep. But I like the blue and gold Sweden theory, so I agree.
But Sweden's also getting issues with the lack of fuel from Ukraine and all that stuff. So, you were right, Dan.
Germany.
Damn it,
Germany, Deutschland. I couldn't read any of the writing on the train, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. But yeah, Germany launched emission-free hydrogen passenger cars with only steam and water issuing from the exhaust.
There are more hydrogen cars in the United States than you would realize. There's a bunch in California. The Honda Clarity is a model of hydrogen car that's available nationwide. It's pretty cool.
I mean, hydrogen to an extent. I mean, is it just extracting it from water, or I mean, have no idea how that works.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million different ways to get hydrogen, but extracting it from water is one of the easiest. In fact, one of the things that people talk about is that you could just put a solar panel floating out at ocean and run an electrical current into the water and capture the hydrogen.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right. Question number 4. A British Belgian teenager became the youngest person to fly around the world solo in a small aircraft. How old is he? 13, 15, 17, or 19?
You know, it's tough because 13 is pretty young to do a solo flight around the thing. But I bet you that when they say solo flight, he actually wasn't by himself. There's probably another adult in the plane, but he did all the flying. That's my guess. And so given that, I would guess 13. But I don't know.
Number 13, so let's go with that.
All right. I was looking at the picture because it's one of the pictures that roll by as the thing. I don't know if he's 13. I'd say 15, but we'll go 13.
I mean, if you saw the picture.
Yeah, you 17. We're both wrong.
Ooh.
So 17-year-old Mac Rutherford set a world record Wednesday after landing in the Bulgarian capital of Sofia, where his journey began on March 23rd. Dang, he's been flying a long time. He was just 15 when he received his pilot license. All right.
Wow.
Good guess, Janice, but unfortunately was... Oh, no, Janice is right.
Yeah, Janice has got this.
Nice job, Janice.
We're just going to go with Janice on all these answers now.
Right, because Janice also said Germany.
Yeah.
But she said Sweden first.
Which member of the Biden administration tested positive for COVID-19 for the second time this month?
I tell you what, if it's First Lady Jill Biden, we are never doing this again because the First Lady is not a member of the administration, in my opinion.
She has an office that is funded out of the executive branch. So,
Really?
I mean, technically she is, but not an official, there is an official role for her, but it's not like a cabinet level.
Yeah, I mean, all right. I mean, I know that she tested positive again for the second time this month. I was hoping it was going to be somebody else.
So it was either Blinken.
If you're going to say she counts as a member of the
Garland.
administration, then it's definitely Jill Biden.
All right. Technically she is. I haven't heard anybody else.
Dude, I'm going to go down to Atlanta and burn down the CNN building.
You just said that. That's amazing.
General Sherman.
Exactly.
My name is Sherman now.
Exactly.
Oh, it is Jill Biden. First Lady Jill Biden. Dan, get your marching boots on, man.
Yep. Dr. Jill Biden.
Dr. Jill Biden. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, she got it second time. And
so yeah, she had it
too.
She had it, then she had a negative test, like 2 negative tests in a row. And so she was okay, went out and did some things and then started testing positive again.
I mean, to me, it almost seems
weird
like
that we keep up with this.
It's lingering. Like, I don't think it's like 2 separate infections. I think it's just lingering. It's almost, it gets out of the system enough to not test positive, but then it's still there. And you're going to test positive.
Right.
I don't think you're getting reinfected.
Right. Are there other things that's happened that cause your body to produce the antibodies? There is, I guess now everybody knows what Lyme disease is, but back in the day, it wasn't widely known. And my dad always, he taught at a medical school. And so he had the opportunity to give blood a lot. So he gave blood as often as he could. And one day the CDC called him and they said, we are concerned and we wanted to do a blood test on you. To make a long story short, there was a prisoner in a jail in Texas who'd gotten a blood transfusion from my dad's blood. And then later on, he tested positive for for the antibodies for Lyme disease, which had never been seen in Texas up to that point. This is like 1978 or so.
Yeah.
But my dad grew up in New England. We spent all our summers there. And so at some point in time, he had Lyme disease, wasn't aware of it, but his body had the antibodies in them. And so they're still there. And so, you know, when antibodies show up in these tests, in these rapid tests, it just shows that your body is fighting at that point in time. It can be a little misleading, but for sure, if you have positive tests, you shouldn't go out right then.
Yeah. All right. Question number 6. Apple is expected to unveil a new generation of which popular product early next month? The MacBook, the Apple Watch, iPad, or iPhone? It's a little too often that they introduce iPhone, so I don't know that's going to be that one. I haven't heard. And I'm not an Apple person. I hate Apple
I'm
products.
also not an Apple person. I
It
think
just came out with an iPad last year.
Yeah, so it's not the iPad.
a
I
new
kind of wonder if it's a
generation
watch.
changed the whole thing. I mean, it could be the MacBook too, because they got rid of the MacBook. The MacBook that they had for a long time, they got rid of, and then they had the MacBook Air for a while. I don't know. It could be the watch, but
Neither of you are Apple people.
no.
I'm just barely. This is a 7. Apple are just broke.
If you're heading down towards the CNN building, you can hit Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. So,
but there's a lot of people there. They're like captive to her.
Yeah,
I don't want to punish them. They've already got punishment enough having her as their representative. Unfortunately, they lost out on a chance to have the wonderful Angela Pence be their
but I bet she would march with you. I would lay money Angela will march with you before anybody else.
All right, so MacBook Watch.
I mean, the watch would be the stupidest thing, and so let's pick that.
Apple Watch. Oh,
iPhone 14. How different is it going to be?
Well, it's just going to give you the features that a Samsung's had for 5 years.
Yeah,
that's all that Apple does is just kind of repackage Samsung innovations and say, "Oh, it's brand new on the iPhone."
Well, it's funny because that's a great example of the free market being better than a closed market. Way back in the day, I wanted to write a program. The iPhone was the first thing out there. I'd gone to a movie and I'd put my phone in silent mode, and then didn't answer a phone call for like 2 weeks because I didn't know that people were calling me because my phone was in silent mode. And this is, back in the very early day. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't I write a timed silent mode that'll say, make my phone quiet for 2 hours? Now, all phones today have that. So yeah, I get it. But trust me, 2003, that was a really radical idea. And so I learned how to program in Cocoa, which was the Apple programming language at the time. And I started writing this program. And then I found out that Apple has because it's a very restricted development environment, you can't put the phone in silent mode if you're a regular developer. So I'm like, well, screw them. I'm going to go try to do this for Android. Android, because it was an open environment, people could do whatever they want. Not only did they do that, they sold map overlays that you could put into your phone, and your phone would automatically go into silent mode if you ever went into a movie theater or a doctor's office or other places, as well as having time silent. So open economy is obviously much better. Apple, I get what they do. I get why people like their stuff, but it is a very limited environment.
Apple is for people who don't understand technology.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Question number 7. President Biden on Wednesday announced new student loan relief for millions of borrowers in the U.S. How much loan forgiveness will some eligible borrowers receive? $5,000, $50,000, $20,000, or $100,000?
Wait, what? When did this happen?
$20,000. Yeah,
$20,000.
It's $20,000 because if you have Pell Grants, you can get $20,000 relief.
Yep.
But generally, if you don't have Pell Grants attached, it is a $10,000 relief.
And my understanding, and I don't remember this, it's been a long time, but my I don't remember how many X's back, got Pell Grants, and you don't actually pay Pell Grants back. It's a grant.
Yeah.
But if you get a Pell Grant, it's because your income is so low that you have to borrow money for just regular life expenses.
Yep.
And so it's to pay back those. It's actually not to pay back the student loans. Rents in the U.S. are recently. I don't know what that means.
I don't. Dr. Phil, you went over our heads, brother.
I mean, I know who Churchill is. I know where Coventry is.
Yeah.
But I missed that one. All right. Rents in the U.S. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, rents in the U.S. recently hit a record high for the 17th month in a row. Which of the following U.S. cities saw the biggest increase compared to a year ago? Miami, Nashville, Los Angeles, or Seattle? Like
my gut is going to be Nashville because it had the most room to go. Miami, LA, and Seattle were already really expensive. And when I was in Nashville last year,
I tend to agree with that.
It was a friggin' nightmare. So there's a Students for Liberty conference going on. The Titans were playing. Vanderbilt was playing a home game. And
that's like 3 people.
The Rolling Stones were playing a concert. So all 3 of those things at once. And here me, first time in Nashville, wanting to go to Hattie's to try to get some hot chicken. And as it turns out, maybe it was better because I went to a more obscure place. And it was okay. I think I needed to go with a native because I wasn't impressed. And I think that hot chicken can be impressive. Interesting.
That's a good, yeah.
That's a great reference. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with
so next time you come to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Oh, Miami.
All right, I'm coming. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to our next reunion, AJ. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes. Me too.
It's Miami.
It was Miami. That would have been my second guess.
26% from a year ago.
Yeah. I mean, it is. Rents are crazy right now. I mean, the thing is, too, Miami is beautiful, right? It's just astonishing.
Yeah.
And anybody who wants to join us there for the SFL LibertyCon, so you can go to studentssfliberty.com and find tickets to LibertyCon. Use the code PFL for People for Liberty. You'll get 75% off your tickets.
Nice.
Dang. That's nice. Yeah, you're going to have some good company down there.
I am excited. A lot of really good people going. I'm especially
Have you heard who's coming from Tennessee?
Liberty Claus?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. And Justin Cornett, not to leave him out because I don't want to hurt his feelings. He's cool too.
That'll be exciting too. I've never met Justin. I'm excited because last time I met Tom, he gave me a whittling tool as a present, and I have been enjoying the heck out of that.
He gives absolutely the best presents.
It's true. I didn't understand that the duck races. Never mind. I'll just stop there.
Oh my goodness. All right, question number 9. So why were some Kia and Hyundai SUVs recalled this week? Fire risks, seatbelt malfunctions, defective tires, or faulty airbags?
I would have bet money that this was about the fact that you can hack them with a USB drive. I don't know if you've been following that.
It's some kind of zero dev type thing.
Yeah, essentially, if the ones that have push button starts, there's essentially a thing you can do where you put a USB drive in with some code on it. Car will start right up.
Wow.
Wasn't this one defective tires or something?
Let's go with what AJ knows.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I feel like there was something with wheels this past week, but
this is all on you, AJ.
Oh, that's
fire risk.
What were you thinking? No, it's Fight Club. Of course, it's a fire risk.
Yeah. So thousands of Hyundai Palisades and Kia Telluride vehicles made between 2020 and 2022 were recalled due to fire risks.
Outside and away
Oh,
from
did you read the rest of it? You got to read the rest of that sentence.
Owners of these models should park their vehicles outside and stay away from their homes until their cars are repaired. Jesus Christ.
Exactly.
spontaneous
Wow.
combustion vehicles.
The U.S. Department of Transportation. Thank you. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thanks,
Park away
guys.
from your home.
Thanks for looking out. Question number 10. Which highly anticipated show brought a whopping 10 million viewers in its first episode this week? She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, The Sandman, House of the Dragon, or The Bear?
It's
House of the Dragon. Yeah.
And I tell you, I was a little disappointed, quite frankly.
I haven't seen it, though.
All
I
right.
haven't. I saw the first episode of Game of Thrones, and I have not seen any of the subsequent episodes.
You read the books instead.
Read the books.
I
Yeah,
can't
I
read.
can.
The
It won't hurt too much, I promise.
I mean, I don't like, honestly, there's a lot of stuff I don't like about it, but wow, that's the worst we've ever done.
5 out of
We
10.
didn't have a guest. That's the problem.
I agree.
Yeah.
We absolutely have to have a guest.
Who should we have as a guest next time?
Ooh.
I'm working on some folks. I as we get closer to the election, I think we need to start having more candidates on. So I'd like to get
couple of
Chase
ideas
on,
for
but I
that.
think Chase is doing Dragon Con next week. I'd like to get
Mhm.
some other folks. So
I would,
Nicole Schultz is going to come on at some point. So
yeah. I would definitely recommend David Lasher at some point.
yeah, if you want to get David on, that's fine.
You know who would be a fun guest, and unfortunately her election is over, but Martha's one of my favorite people. We can get Martha on.
Did you really? Like,
I
for real?
apologize. Yeah, if we can get Martha on, that'd be great.
Like,
I apologize.
Fangirl.
I
So
watched
bad.
that. I watched that Get Out the Vote video that she put like 30 times.
Yep. I'll ask Martha. I'm sure she.
Wow.
That would be amazing.
Wow. That's all I can say. Yes, Chase Oliver, definitely want Chase on the show because he's great.
Yes,
But
please.
yeah, 5 out of 10. We'll do better next week, I think. Maybe. I'll try and pay attention to the news.
I don't guarantee that I'll ever pay attention.
We're running short on time tonight, but we'll hit this story. Talk of the Trump indictment is coming sooner rather than later. The redacted. Did you guys see the redacted affidavit that
I saw bits and pieces. I saw the part where like 3 sections in a row were entirely redacted.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't like the dude at all, but I thought it was funny that Donald Trump Jr. said, "Well, that clears some things up."
Yeah, it was pretty funny. It's stupid. I mean, first of all, I don't know why they had to redact any of it. I mean, except for like saying what was actually in there. So then, if they just covered that part of it, that would have been fine.
I think what the justification was, it would be easy to identify the informant and that type of stuff.
Everybody knows it was DeSantis who was the informant.
Ron DeSantis is his own piece of work. But I think we do see him indicted.
It's going to be interesting because what's going to happen with that? I mean, it's being done in the wrong way, and that's the problem. Okay, because we're so angry and we're so at each other's throats that there's nobody who's willing to get out there and say this is the right thing that should happen.
Yeah.
There's nobody arguing for, the rule of law, and it's a weird thing for me to say because Jefferson has this great thing where he talks about the fact that the law is often just the tyrant's will. But I think that there's a lot of stuff in our legal system that I don't like, but there's some basic elements to the idea of that nobody is above the law that we need to preserve and talk about and honor. And so if we get that case, what is up, Chase? Dude, first of all,
we did say your name. Come on the show soon.
We did. Yeah, we want you to come on the show. And we are so excited. I think, are we going to be the first people to 50 is a good number, Chase. Congratulations on your 50th birthday. Very exciting. And I mean, you look good for 52. That's the other thing. And so back to the Trump thing. We need somebody who's willing to stand up and say, this is the good government choice. And frankly, if somebody were honest, they would say, you know what? I want to tell the whole story. And so let's have his case.
I don't think it's going to, I mean, I don't think it would matter though.
You don't think that there are going to be people rioting
No,
because
I don't think that if somebody comes out and says this is the reason why, and this is lays out the case, and this is the good government argument for this, there is people so entrenched on both sides right now that they're not going to buy it no matter what. I mean, if somebody comes out and says, hey, we looked at all the boxes of evidence and there really wasn't anything in there that was that important, or if somebody comes out and says, hey, there were like the names of spies and their operations overseas and nuclear codes, I don't think either side would buy it. And
so, first of all, this is just more reason why Donald Trump should have pardoned Edward Snowden, who's giving away more secrets than Donald Trump. But you know, no, I don't, because first of all, you hear the argument, oh, the president can declassify anything through executive order, which is an interesting concept. And I don't know that we know the great idea about that. But the other thing is that, it is going to be, I don't know. I just don't know who the person is who's arguing, I agree, and all qualified immunity, 100%. If only there were a Senate candidate I could support who is running on that principle. And if only I knew what his website were. We just need somebody to stand up. Somebody, it has to be somebody on the Republican side too, to say, you know what, we're doing this because it's right, not because it is.
We saw what happened with a Republican who tried to stand up. Yeah, Liz Cheney lost her and she's vilified within the.
Well, I mean, it's a cult
within the party. Yeah,
I mean, it's plain and simple. And honestly, no matter what happens, there's going to be something. America, we just seem primed to argue and fight and whatever. So no matter what happens, if Trump actually is charged and it is taken that way, his people are going to lose their minds. They've done that. They've proven that. They're willing to do it again. They don't care.
I mean, yeah, if you
if
think the
nothing
Cincinnati
happens at all, I sure hope the rest of us will stand up and be like, no, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
I really hope so. I don't know if it'll happen though.
Yeah, I mean,
ChaseForGeorgia.com.
Yeah, ChaseForGeorgia.com. If
for Georgia,
I think that what happened in Cincinnati is going to be small potatoes compared to what happens when the indictment does come down. At least for a few days. I hope we get some kind of heads up, but I would go ahead and stock up some provisions for a couple of days so that if it drops tomorrow or a couple of days from now, that
there's a trucker
you don't have to go.
War.
Yeah. Promise to pardon.
Wow. But I tell you what,
like Ford though.
I don't think. I mean, is it possible? Is it possible for somebody to run on the idea of do the right thing, make the moral decision, and could they win doing that? Because I mean, I think for most of us, I don't know. For me, it's clear that there is a moral bankruptcy in what. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if Trump were martyred, I mean, he already is, right? There are always going to be these people who do it. So how do you fight that? How do you fight that cult? And my answer, of course, is the only way you can: depower government. Make it so that it doesn't matter if there's a cult of Trump, because those people have no power over your lives. And the one thing that we should be committed to is defending each other's independence and liberty. As David Lasher, that's pretty funny. As David Lasher, candidate for Maryland, says, I am running to protect you from my opinion, not to inflict it upon you.
Good stuff. All right. Well, you are over time this week.
Good
We had a
show.
good show. Yeah. I mean, it was good discussion.
We had a good show. We didn't do the call sign in the middle of the show. We
We
forgot.
did not.
So
But
everybody's online right now. Please tag one of your friends and tell them they have to watch the show all the way through because we mentioned them by name.
okay. Or well, maybe skip over the CNN news quiz part. That was,
That's
not our
embarrassing.
favorite.
We can edit that out and post
Yeah,
it.
that was a little heavy.
But yeah,
We
give us a
needed a
like,
guest.
share, subscribe on YouTube, like or share on Facebook, LinkedIn.
Yep.
We're on LinkedIn. We're on Twitch. We're on Twitter. Wherever you're watching us from, give us a like and a share. We really appreciate it. It
Right.
helps boost what we're doing and gets us more.
But yeah, I mean, the really good thing right now, guys, if you go to the YouTube page and you click on subscribe, but then you click on the bell, every time we go live, you'll get notified about it in your Google universe. Okay, so that's a great thing that you can do. Helps the show a lot, and it helps you not miss any of our other things. Plus, YouTube's got all these great sharing tools. You can share clips around with friends, all that stuff. So get in there, help us make the show more popular. And we love Facebook and we love Twitch and we love all that stuff. But the one platform where you can share everything with everybody all the time is YouTube. And so whatever you want to do. And then, for the very selective crowd, Dave does have that Patreon account. And if you're interested in the photos, show us your feet. Yeah.
I gotta keep the sock.
Is that a requirement now?
Yeah, I gotta keep the sock on because the barefoot is for the paying.
Fair enough.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's hot.
Is that an Einstein sock? That's awesome.
And sock. No idea we were showing feet. I just happen to have cool socks on.
All right.
Only feet.
Only
Yes.
Only
Actually,
feet.
I'm gonna start a.
I guarantee you that onlyfeet.com is taken.
Oh, I'm sure. I had a friend that actually worked for Zappos for a while. He was customer service for Zappos, and people would call him all the time asking him for the names of the foot models for the shoes.
Wow.
Well, he was like, hey, you get all kinds of. And I don't want to call let your freak flag fly. Do you? I don't have a problem with that, but
Onlyfeet.com is available for purchase.
oh,
Right. I think that's it.
I was going to start
Dan
one.
started this whole thing, so
Yeah, I was gonna start one for Mexican pastries and desserts called OnlyFlans.
wait.
Onlyfeet.com.
If y'all started OnlyFeet thing, can we just go get pedicures together? I think that would be so much fun.
Oh no, my feet are ugly.
Only if we're going to do the fish one, because that is like my favorite.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will totally do it. I will giggle like the entire time, but yes, I'll do it.
All right. I used to work in a Unix lab, and that's UNIX, not EUN.
Oh, no.
Unix. I don't think I know how to spell that Unix. Anyway, but so
EUNUCH.
this was in the early days of the internet, 1996, and we used to talk about the fact we're like, man, every domain's been taken. Of course, we didn't know at the time that how big things were going to get, but we used to gauge it as to whether or not monkeyporn.com and by 1998 somebody owned monkeyporn.com.
Weird.
That's probably the good night. Good.
How much did you pay for it?
Someone.
I hate that we didn't get to the Amanda Riza story. That was just a shitty story.
I mean, I'll go 3 more minutes on that if you want.
Yeah. So Amanda Riza, just a little background on Amanda Riza. He was a top flight punter in college at San Diego State University. Was drafted in the, I think, 6th round by the Buffalo Bills.
Right, which is high for a punter.
Yeah, very high for a punter, although he was the 3rd one taken. And, he was, actually during the preseason, I mean, he was getting all this hype. He had hit like an 82-yard punt, which is, massive. And the next week, I mean, he was like getting hyped up even almost as much as Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills. Watching Buffalo sports media with this guy was quite intense. And then Later that week, there came out of the story that he was being sued for gang raping a young 17-year-old at San Diego State before leaving college. And he has been released by the Buffalo Bills. He went from
he admitted to having sex with her,
yeah,
and to, I believe, giving her an intoxicating substance, but he claims that he didn't rape her.
yeah. He says he gave her alcohol, but not a roofie, and then he had sex with her. But she was he gave her alcohol when she was underage. He had sex with her while she was underage, and I don't know what the age of consent was.
And clearly could not consent.
Yes, could not
by
consent.
everybody's definition.
Yeah, and it was right. I applaud the Bills for doing it. It may have taken a little bit longer than a lot of people,
Right.
would have said, but
I'm glad they did it. I do want to know what they knew when, because there's some talk that certainly the scouts knew about this allegation beforehand.
yeah, and apparently the lawyer had reached out to the Bills after they drafted him. That's again, if the Bills sat on this for ages and only acted because it became a that's
Public knowledge.
yeah.
You
get no credit for doing the right thing.
I will never understand what the hesitation is with withdrawing your support from somebody that's accused of something horrific. I mean, if she says no, it's rape. If she can't say no, it's rape. That's not sex. That is rape. There's no wiggle room there. She's 17 years old, and you gave her something that is an intoxicating substance with an alcoholic drink, within the alcoholic drink. I mean, what did you think was going to happen?
There's a great story about this in New England, where Bill Belichick wanted to draft a guy from Nebraska named Christian Peters, who was, a multiply accused rapist. And Myra Kraft, the wife of Bob Kraft, said, no, that guy is not coming to play here. And if you talk to people who played for the Patriots, Myra Kraft was always like a mother to the team. Like when people got in, she helped to make sure that people got settled, that their families got settled, kids got into schools, stuff like that. And so Bill Parcells, who was the coach at the time, famously said, you want me to cook dinner, but you won't let me buy the groceries. And he ended up quitting over that, which of course allowed Bill Belichick to become the coach of the Patriots. And exactly.
I love that story.
Thank you. Yeah, good on Myra Kraft. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Again, give us a like, share, and subscribe wherever you're at. And we will talk to everyone next week. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye, guys.